everybody. Oh my gosh, thank you so much for coming out. Thank you. I know you guys So my name is Jessica Tseang, and I am an international comics historian. I have been on AMC's Robert Kirkman's Secret History of Comics. I'm also in a documentary called Ghost Empire about Barbie comics. That will be coming out soon, and I am one of the few lucky ones I feel like I get to be asked to go to international conventions around the world and just talk about comic book history, pop culture history, and also really show how powerful the medium is as it also leaps to live action. And thank you for coming out on this Saturday. Thank you again. Our panel is Shang-Chi, Cultural Impact, and also Celebration of Fight Choreography. So first up, the person next to me is Brian Lay. How are you?
Hi everyone, I'm Brian.
He is Simu's trainer, and the person that makes him look so damn good.
And I also played Death Dealer in Marvel Studios' Shang-Chi and Legend of the Ten Rings.
And Joseph Lay, how are you?
Hey folks, I'm Joseph Lay, action designer of Shang-Chi and film director.
So Joseph, we are going to start with you. What is an action designer?
An action designer, we're basically the filmmakers of the stunt department, and we kind of film the action sequences before even stepping on set. Because action sequences are so complex and require so much energy that whenever we shoot action, it has to be very precise. So we would come up with vignettes and kind of like trying to build the character through the fight language by shooting a bunch of videos inside a gymnasium with like stunt mats, stunt rigs, sent it to the director for approval, and yeah, we're just making the movie before the actual movie.
And Brian, what is it like being Shang-Chi's trainer?
Well,
what does that entail?
well, first off, thank you for having us here. It's an honor. Being Shang-Chi's trainer. So first off, Simu, I just want to throw out, he's very passionate and he's very, very dedicated to his craft. When he first stepped into the gym, you know, first off, the trainers were me, Andy here, and one of my good friends, DY. And what we first did was we pointed out all his strengths and his weaknesses, and we worked with them. So some of his weaknesses are he was kind of stiff, but he has a very natural athletic build, and he also has a background in martial arts training, which is the same background that Andy and I also have, and it's also from the same generation as well. And also coming into a martial arts film, we wanted to up his game in his martial arts background, so we focused mainly on his martial arts.
Awesome. And Andy.
Yes.
What is your most memorable moment?
Ooh, I have too many memorable moments. But for me, the most memorable moment was when I remember, because I grew up on martial arts films, and I grew up on Hong Kong classes. And what was crazy about Shang-Chi is that we casted a lot of legends, Tony Leung, Michelle Yeoh, Yuen Wah, and I remember one moment for me, like it's been crazy this whole time, but I remember the one time I really took it in was when I was sitting in a green room with all of them, Tony Leung, Michelle Yeoh, Yuen Wah, and myself, and I was just sitting there, and I'm like, yo, I went from watching them on screen to sharing the screen with them. So for me, out of all the memorable moments, that was probably the one that stood out the most.
And with that, we actually have a 2-minute clip.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Show of hands.
The real one.
The real ones. Okay, Jackie Chan's Police Story. Also, if you guys haven't seen it, go see it. It's a classic. If you love martial arts movies, if you love Shang-Chi, go watch Jackie Chan's Police Story.
Change the game with that one.
So briefly, how did each one of you get involved with the film?
You want to start?
Andy, you go first because you had bubble tea with Brad Allen.
Okay. First of all, like just a bit of background. Me and my brothers, we started up a YouTube channel, and we all shared this passion for martial arts. And one day, we love martial arts movies. One day, we decided to just form a team and just shoot fight practices and shorts and skits, and we just had fun. And we just put it up on YouTube. Over time, we kind of fashioned ourselves as a club, like a martial club, because we like martial arts. So we put up these shorts on YouTube. Over time, it gained traction. And as we kept doing it, we developed it like a craft. So not only the martial art aspect, but the acting, the shooting, the editing aspect. And over time, we gained some traction on YouTube. Fast forward a few years, we were discovered by Brad Allen. So Brad Allen, the late Brad Allen, which rest in peace, condolences to him and anyone who he's positively impacted in his life, because he always kept an eye out and looked out for undiscovered talent, myself and my brothers included. So he was always on YouTube and looking for like the best out there, and then he found us on YouTube one day. And so
What's the YouTube video name?
Dance of the Drunken Gods.
Check it out. These guys blew up the community because they're the first ones who combine old school with new school tricking.
Yep.
It's unheard of. Actually.
And I think that's what Brad ultimately saw, and he recognized that not only were we paying homage to the old school, the veterans, we were also adding a new modern contemporary flair that he thought would change the game. So initially he reached out to me first. So Brad Allen, how many of you guys in here have seen Jackie Chan's Gorgeous? Okay, a good number. So you guys remember the short guy who was fighting in the movie? There was only probably one of Jackie's best one-on-one fights was with Brad Allen. And he became one of the veterans of the Jackie Chan Stunt team, and in my opinion, one of the best. And he started us on YouTube, and he's like, hey, he got boba with us, and he was like, well, with me, and he was like, hey, I'm working on this film with Marvel, and I was like, why would you come to me for Marvel? We just do martial arts, He's like, it's a martial arts genre, and that style of action is actually right up your alley. We saw you guys on YouTube, and I think it would have been perfect for you guys. So right away, I knew it was Shang-Chi, because by that time, the word of Shang-Chi was already out, and that it was being made. So I told him right off the bat that, because we've had our foot in the door working in the stunt industry before, we know really quickly that it actually wasn't the career path for us. And that's not to downplay anything that stunt performers do. They actually put their lives on the line for us to make us look good. But we wanted to do more. We wanted to act. We wanted a role. We wanted the world to know behind this punch or behind this kick, it's Andy Lee. So I told him I prefer not to work as a stunt performer, but because of my respect for you and the Jackie Chan stunt team, I'll jump in and we'll train Simu initially. And he told me, he really respected what I told him, and he said, I'll keep an eye out for you. If there's a role that opens up, I'll let you know. Fast forward a couple months of training Simu, and then he hits me up one day, and he's like, hey, there's a role that opened up. They just wrote it in. It's kind of a ninja role, and your style of martial arts is kind of ninja. So I think this role will be perfect for you. So he just had me submit for it. I submitted for it. I didn't think much of it. I was like, oh, they're probably not going to even, book me, whatever. And not even like a week later, I got a call from the casting agency, and it wasn't just me. Brian and Daniel, my brothers, were there, and they were like, oh, yeah, we would like to have you come on, play this role. No audition needed. You were just so perfect for the role, so just come and play it. And so we had this moment like,
Yeah, let's
total You came from YouTube, man, and now we're
Now we're an action figure.
and now we're an action figure. So that's kind of this, that's in a nutshell the story.
And they knew exactly what they wanted Andy for. Brian, when did you come in? They were like, you're gonna train Tseang.
Okay, so pretty much the same story. Brad found us on YouTube, and he even told us he made a Facebook specifically just so that he can send us a message, you know? Because I guess
Brad was one of those OGs who was too cool to use social media.
yeah, too cool. But yeah, I believe Brad was one of the few who was one to reach out to creatives like us and more of the independent artists to put in their own flair to the new genre of martial arts action filmmaking, you know? And around the same time, during pre-production phase, there was a period of 2 months where Andy and I and our friend and one of our brothers, DY, we drove out to Burbank every morning, 5 days a week to train Simu for 2 months. And it was during that period where Simu really shaped up and upped his game in his martial arts and his conditioning and everything.
Simu started, he's very athletic, as you can tell. He has a build, he had a martial arts training background. Where he was lacking most, and he would admit this himself, was he was very stiff. And so every morning, after warm-ups, we would all just pin him, three of us, it took the three of us.
Pin him down and pin right down. His hands, shoulders, everything. Just for the mobility.
So make sure that split kick was done correctly on the bus sequence.
There's images of it online, and Simu looks like he's in pain. Like he's the stretching out and.
It's probably from the trauma.
Actually, I believe because quite coincidentally enough, my character played his trainer in the movie, so we kind of already had that chemistry going. What I would say is what you guys saw in the trailer was not nearly as painful as our training in real life. We put him through hell. He probably really hates us.
But the good thing was he was willing and he was passionate and he was dedicated and he did whatever it took to get to where he did for the role.
And Joseph, when did someone come up to you and say, you, action designer, that's your title?
Oh man, it was a combination of a lot of events. It wasn't like a LinkedIn job application or whatever. A lot of the stunt industry is through word of mouth, and luckily I built up a reputation for 5 years of combining anime style with like Hong Kong style action, and that's what led me to collaborate with these guys. We actually met up in the Shaolin Temple. And I remember going up to Dharma's cave and praying. I was like, next year I want to have a strong impact on Kung Fu cinema. And then literally the anniversary of that event, Shang-Chi happened.
Oh, that was an anniversary?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
Well, kind of. Well, anyways. Yeah. Well, while they were training Simu, Brad was actually asking them who should shoot the camera off the action sequences and who has anime and Hong Kong flavor. And then these guys stuck out their neck for me, even when they should, they stuck out their neck for me a couple times, but then Brad would always retort and be like, I'm thinking about Chris Cowan shooting the anime sequences. And I was like, damn it. He's bested me again because Chris Cowan and I were kind of like rivals in YouTube of like the anime live action kind of subgenre. And then just like little by little.
I kept fighting for Joseph. I was like, no, you need
It was a no-brainer, straight up Joseph Lee.
Yeah, I remember like going to the gym and getting a call from Andy. He's like, we tried boo-boo, but he didn't say anything. And I would just punch the wall like, oh, not this time. And I was like, why am I fighting to be in the industry for 5 years, you know? And then all of a sudden I was like, Andy, screw it. Can you give me Brad Allen's email address? And then he was like, I'm stepping out of line, but screw it. It's going to be way more fun with you involved. And so I emailed Brad. I was like thanking him for, Jackie Chan's stunt team legacy and what he brought from what he learned to Western cinema, to Scott Pilgrim, Hellboy movies, Pacific Rim. He was, one of Jackie's favorite disciples. And I wanted to do the same, how he did with Hollywood with this Shang-Chi project. So I pitched him 3 projects, or like showed him 3 projects, my process, and he emailed me back, and he was like, how can I not hire you? Are you DGA? I was like, what? And then I actually installed an email tracker app, and it said like Brad Allen clicked on my link like 23 times. I helped, I came to the training sessions, and actually we shot a lot of test fights at the ending of the training routines. So that was really cool. We shot those test fights and pitched them to Brad.
That definitely helped, because Brad would always go back to those test fights and be like, yo, it should be like this. Let's try to get the bus sequence to look like this. And it all started within that training.
Yeah, it was crazy. We would be done training him, and then on the way to the previous area,
he'd be editing in the car, straight up.
Yeah, he just like sweating, and like we were presenting Brad the fight sequence with sound design on our phones, and yeah, it was just crazy experience. And then that was kind of like my audition to work in Australia for 3 months with the big leagues, and yeah, really grateful because this was my first ever feature film, and it just all came full circle because I was inspired by these guys in 2015 on YouTube. I was having a rut. I was like a web designer, and I didn't know what to do with my career, but I had a martial arts background. And I saw these guys come up with their YouTube videos. I was like, oh, we have the same last name. Okay, one day I'll work up.
He's our long lost brother.
Yeah, anyways.
So we obviously are going to talk about the cultural impact that this film has. You know, it came at the right time during our current times of, you know, anti-Asian racism. Also the fact that it is the first Asian American or Asian Western superhero film in the MCU. One of the largest, most successful franchises in the world. And so it's not just another martial arts film or a film, you know, with other, you know, Asian American actors. When did it hit you, the weight or the stress that you realized that you will be representing so much for so many generations to come, or for those who grew up without ever really seeing anyone that really represented them on screen? And also what I loved is there was no accent. Simu's character, Shang-Chi, did not speak with an accent in the film.
Okay, so it didn't really hit me until after the film came out, and I saw how much of an impact that it was. I never had the script, the full script. I only had my sides, so I was only able to gauge how the film was going to be based on my sides. And when the film came out, it was a huge success, and I saw the impact that it made, and I'm like, yo, this is what was supposed to happen, because especially during a time of, you know, the Asian, API and racism. And I think, for me, right, I grew up on martial arts films, and I was also, ever since for me, I was a little kid, I got bullied a lot in school. And when I came home and I'd watch a martial arts movie, I'd watch heroes, I'd watch Bruce Lee stand up to 10 black belts and kicking ass. And I saw Wong Fei-hung like kicking ass. And for me, it does something to you when you're like a fat kid getting bullied a lot in school. And so it's that sense of empowerment, and I think it's the same sense of empowerment I'm seeing today. And so for me, I always knew like I wanted to inspire the world, much like the martial arts heroes inspired me back then. And for me to even be here and take part in it is pretty surreal. And to see that the same impact that it had on me is having on the world today, I think we're on the right direction.
Yeah. And I believe, from a martial arts standpoint, in Asian culture, martial arts is so ingrained in Asian culture that I believe Shang-Chi stepping up now is the forefront of a new generation. I just want to add that.
It's beyond just putting Asians in the limelight. You know, it's about the culture that we bring in. Martial arts is a gem in Asian culture.
Yeah, it was such a relief because in the past few years there's a big rebound from Iron Fist. And I felt like No disrespect to the stunt team on Iron Fist, though, but it is a rebound from like every time I mention kung fu in movies, all my friends would be like, "Oh, story must suck. Oh, characters triads," and so like Wu Assassins and a bunch of other stuff. So when we got the call for this one, we were trying to do it for, you know, all the true martial arts fans and people who really needed this film to come out, especially after the Asian hate. And I remember during my YouTube days, 5 years, like I would be doing action comedies, and then my cousins would be like, "Man, why are you upholding the stereotype?" And then when Shang-Chi came out, they posted on the Instagram, "Joseph Lee, I'm so proud of you, cuz." I'm like, so yeah, it was a huge relief, and we looked at the script. It was a lot going on. They cut out a lot of scenes, and not gonna lie, I looked up the writer's screenwriter. He made Wonder Woman 1985. That movie was aight. And I was like, "Oh, why are we having the script and Shang-Chi? This is supposed to be our big moment," but you know, they pulled it off, and I just got a huge sign of relief after the movie ended. And it was just so nice to see, you know, Asian Americans as badass, as well as human beings with real flaws and problems, family problems, and portraying our experience with living with high expectations father. You know, sometimes we're just so sick of being told what to do that we break out of the tradition. But then this movie explains that, you know, we can also embrace our heritage while paving a new path. So I thought that was a beautiful message. And it just wrapped itself all together really well. Yeah.
So before I head for any more questions, we're going to open up the floor for some Q&A. Do we have anybody we're going to start with you, and then you in the back. Yes, you can stand up and kind of project your voice.
This is for Joseph. You started out by saying your job is to design a character through action. Could you go through the process of your designing Shang-Chi through the actions that you did, especially the philosophy?
Thanks. So it's a very complex job. We would first look at the script with the fight coordinator. Our fight coordinators were Andy Chang, Jackie Chan, Stunt Team's veteran. But usually the script would not inform, you know, the fighting styles. And so we had to do a lot of research. You know, first and foremost, we started with the Mandarin. You know, he used the Iron Rings, which is based on Hung God. And then we're like, oh, he's a very aggressive type of character. So we would shoot a lot of vignettes of stunt performers doing the Hung God, Tiger style. And then we looked at the mom, you know, Tai Chi style. And so we would just shoot vignettes, and through exploring the movement, it would also inform the character. And actually for action design, what made this movie really special was because Brad Allen, our second unit director, fought to pitch a lot of story concepts through a lot of discoveries we made through the previous. And we had a flat structure, unlike the whole traditional Hollywood filmmaking. Anyone was allowed to pitch their ideas. And so, yeah.
And yes, we have a question in the back.
So when you guys are choreographing the fight scene, how do you try to find that balance between practical moves that the trademark players can actually use versus less practical stuff that was awesome, like what Shang-Chi did with the jacket on us?
Do we have a microphone? Do we have a wireless mic?
I think it was like the balance of practical moves and flashy moves.
I think if you guys watch the film, you guys will notice that no each fight is the same. The bus fight was a little more grounded, right? It was more Jackie Chan style, no wires or anything, and the rhythm was very Jackie style. And you can see by the end of the movie, it becomes a spectacle, like the crazy special effects and the wires. And so I think what I felt happened was we wanted to cover all grounds. So we wanted to cover like the grounded fights to the big spectacle and just make sure we capture everything, even down to Tony and Fala's scene. It was more of a dance. So that gave us a lot of room for creativity, and I think we kind of based it kind of off the fight sequences. But maybe Joseph, you might have a better answer.
I mean, we didn't want to let the practical stuff get in the way of the creativity. Otherwise, you should watch a different film. I don't know, but we always have that balance. Like, wait, I could knock you out here, but then we can't bridge to this combo, which the audience would like stand up at the platform. I don't know, but we always have to find a balance.
I think if you're gonna watch a martial arts film, a kung fu-based martial arts film, and especially a Marvel film, you should be able to throw the realistic aspect out the window and just be in for a show.
It's like a musical, you just accept it. And no matter what though, each movement has to have intention and drive the characters and story forward, I think.
It's not just a martial arts showcase. If you were to watch it, there was still story aspects, but with moves that would still impress the audience. Like how to get to the front of the bus and how to get everyone on one side of the bus and then chop the bus in half.
Gotta have that balance. In my preference, too practical is boring, too wire food is too fantasy, it's right in the middle, it's lit. Yeah.
Tough question.
Yes, we have a question.
For each of you guys, so I know you guys are a big fan of martial arts movies, obviously. So if you had to pick your favorite martial arts actor, who would it be?
Donnie Yen.
I think me and Joseph have the same.
Favorite?
3, 2, 1.
Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan, because I think it for us. Inspired us to stand up to bullies, but then I would have to say the next generation, Andy Lay and Brian Lay.
We would need you to help us take us to the next level.
We
Thanks,
have a
Joseph.
question over there.
So because of working on Shang-Chi, are you guys noticing like more doors opening up for any future projects that you guys are working on possibly?
Definitely yes. Us as a team, we've been reached out by a lot more producers, and we've actually accepted a couple ones, and we're talking to some of the producers, and we're actually in development for a couple of projects. So be sure to look out for the Martial Club movie. Yeah.
It's funny you asked that because we noticed when you talk about opportunities opening, we noticed like there was trends that come in, that phase in and phase out. Early 2000s, martial arts movies was actually pretty big over here in Hollywood. When Yuen Woo-ping first came over, Jackie Chan was huge shit, and then Jet Li was huge shit, and Kill Bill, The Matrix, and then eventually it kind of faded out into like more realism. Then you had the whole phase with the John Wick, with the guns of jiu-jitsu, and then the big Marvel spectacles. And then we always talked about this, like even 5-6 years ago, we were already talking about there has to be a time where martial arts has to phase back in and be cool again. And we always talked about once that day happens, we have to be there. And I believe like Shang-Chi is the very first stepping stone. It's opening the doors, and I think you're gonna see a lot more kung fu, a lot more martial arts, kick-ass action, and especially with us, you're gonna see us martial club style unfiltered. So be on the lookout for that.
My parents are not
And then with you.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask Brian and Andy, you kind of made it clear you want to do more acting, right?
Yep.
Stunt work. Would you ever want to do something that's non-martial arts, kind of like what Jackie Chan did maybe in Foreigner, or maybe the direction that Simu was going?
Maybe in the future, but right now martial arts is where my heart tells me I need to be, and we've only gotten this far by following our hearts, so I'm not gonna stop doing that.
There's still another 5 years.
You have a question.
Yeah, I can't believe I can talk about this now. As a former Marvel Studios VFX data wrangler, yes, I worked on the Black Widow movie this year. WandaVision. So being so close to the production, along with my team of VFX wranglers that were over there, and a lot of the movie had to be finished up during COVID, how was it to, at least with Joe, how was it to coordinate a lot of that fight choreography, like within such tight conditions like that? Because I'm sure it had to be a nightmare.
Yeah, it was really chaotic, but luckily all of the action designers were also independent filmmakers on their own, right? And it was kind of like a tag team of action designers. Like Chris would be shooting the beginning of the bus scene, I would be shooting outside of the bus, while someone's adding VFX with the razor fist, and we're just continuously swapping. And also we're doing like, you know, poor man's VFX and pitching it to the VFX department. It was just an open dialogue, so we just worked in tandem a lot. Everyone was like, what?
We have a question over there. Hi, Wanda.
Hi, this is more of a personal question. Since you're all into martial arts, if you had to pick a style, what would it be?
The best style is no style.
Yeah. I think the best style is, for me personally, I would dabble in whatever style gets your attention first. And train everything and nothing. No, I'm just kidding. Train all the styles, see what you like, and create your own. Just like Bruce Lee's method, you know, take what's useful and throw out what's not. Jikundo.
I think he has a very high level of martial arts understanding that he's not getting through to you. I think what he's trying to say is pick something that gets your attention that you would genuinely love to do. Something that a style that you would genuinely love to wake up in the morning and do every day, because where I see most people fail is consistency. And I think it's a lot easier to be consistent when you're doing what you love to do. So whether it would be, if you like combative sports, I would try MMA or Muay Thai or Jiu-Jitsu. If you like the showy stuff, try Wushu, try Kung Fu, try Taekwondo for the kicking aspect. Whatever grabs your attention, do your research, and as long as you do it and you know that you love it, that's a good starting place. And what he's also trying to say is don't be close-minded to it either. Be open to learning new styles. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, you want to absorb everything as much as you can and create a style that's ultimately your own.
We are going to do a quick round of 3 questions, 1, 2, and 3. And so we're going to do a little fire sale. We're going to answer as quickly as we can.
Sure, let's do it.
Yes, your question.
Hi, my name is Brandon, and I am an aspiring director, and my question for you today is, what can a director do in order to establish a strong working relationship with a stunt team?
Do you want me to take this?
Yeah.
Okay, I'll start. If you want to chime in.
Watch the same movies together.
Yeah, I've worked in the industry for quite a bit. I've seen stunt teams, action directing teams, like clash heads with the director, because sometimes the stunt team wants to OP the action, and ultimately at the end of the day we all want to make a better movie. I've seen the stunt team want to OP the action, but the director was too much on the story side, and there's always like a conflict, and the director thinks he wants to know, like, he thinks he knows how to shoot action, when really sometimes it's the action side, that the stunt team that knows which angle sells punch or kick the best. And I think the best way is, like Joseph said, watch the same movies, get on the same page, and really like get yourself in the shoes as the action team. And I think once you guys can think on the same wavelength, ultimately, again, if you're trying to make a better film, it will come to fruition.
Just shoot a bunch of test fights over the weekend together, imitating your favorite movies, and then adding your own twist to it.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Now, obviously, the choreo was heavily inspired by previous martial arts films, but was there any specific movies that you took inspiration from, like The Old Boy One Shot?
The Old Boy was your shot, wasn't it?
Yeah, so initially storyboarded that shot. Yeah, it was just everything, even Rumble in the Bronx, Operation Condor.
Rush Hour?
Jackie movies.
Rush Hour 2, scaffold fight. That scaffold fight wasn't originally supposed to be in the movie. It wasn't in the script, but Tseang pitched it. And then also, there wasn't the Death Dealer versus Shang-Chi fight, but Andy signed on. They're like, oh shit, we got this talent. Let's make him fight. So, and also a lot of inspiration from Naruto, anime, video games.
Any inspiration is welcome.
We had one question in the back, and that's going to be our last question.
So going into a Marvel movie, having that pressure from a ton and like millions of fans all around the world, like what was the pressure like in like working on an actual Marvel movie?
I had a lot of pressure until I watched what Simu was going through. I was like, man, I would not want to be in the shoes. And all that stretching, so it's just like, oh, I don't have this so bad.
I can say otherwise. Me and Brian, we keep ourselves in tip-top
Tip-top shape condition.
Tip-top, dead-stop condition year-round, so when the camera's on, we're ready to go at all times.
Yes, sir.
They
We just had fun.
Yeah,
It was
as long as you have fun with it, that's all.
The training is way harder than being on set.
So very quickly, a one-sentence answer from each one of you. Other than the fight scenes and the choreography, what was the most touching of your heart? Like, this is what Asian culture is like in the film. For me, is when they took off their shoes. Right? That is attention to detail. What about is it for you?
Circle around, please go back.
Yeah, when the father gave his rings to Shang-Chi.
The martial arts dot.
Straight up stole my answer. Basically, I love all the martial arts aspects and how every fighter is different. Just bringing martial arts into the culture alone, that's great.
And where can we find more of all of you online?
YouTube.com/Martial Club or Instagram Martial Club Official.
Or Instagram, Brian Even Wolf, all caps, no space.
Or Instagram Joseph Lee _art.
Yeah, just type in Joseph Lake art.
Joseph Lee.
Wonderful. So also, they will be at the autograph area, AA04. Whew, had a moment there. It's been a long day. 5:30 to 7. So just because I know a lot of you guys would love to take photos with them, we actually have to be ushered out to clear for the next room, and also we cannot be standing outside and blocking anyone else's path. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you guys.